Have you ever stopped to think about what it truly costs to be poor? It's a question that seems to have a straightforward answer, doesn't it? We might assume that having less money just means you buy fewer things, tighten your belt, and make do with less. It's a narrative of scarcity, of simple subtraction. But what if I told you that for millions of people, the reality is the exact opposite? That the less money you have, the more you end up paying for the absolute essentials. The truth is much more complicated, and frankly, much more unfair. This is the paradox at the heart of modern poverty, a phenomenon economists call the poverty premium. It's a hidden price tag, a surcharge for being poor that quietly siphons away precious resources from those who can least afford it. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore how this premium shows up in banking, housing, food, and transportation, creating a cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. It means paying more, not less, for the basic necessities of life. From the roof over your head, to the food on your table, to the daily commute just to get to work. To understand how this works in the real world, let's imagine a single mother named Maria. She's a dedicated parent working an hourly job with a fluctuating pay schedule. Her income isn't consistent, making it nearly impossible to plan a budget with any certainty. Because of this volatility, she doesn't have a traditional bank account. The risk of a single overdraft fee, which could cost more than an hour of her labor, is too great. Minimum balance requirements feel like a penalty she can't afford to risk. So, every payday, Maria goes to a check cashing store. And every single time, she loses a percentage of her hard-earned money just to access it. It's the first toll she pays, the first layer of the poverty premium. That fee might seem small, but over a year, it adds up to hundreds of dollars that could have gone toward groceries, a utility bill, or a pair of new shoes for her child. This is just the beginning of her journey, where every financial decision is a tightrope walk without a safety net. They are like small leaks in a boat. One leak might not sink you, but many small leaks will. Think about using an ATM that isn't from your bank. You might pay a $3 fee, but for someone counting every dollar to make it to the end of the week, that $3 could have been a loaf of bread. Imagine you have just $70 left to last you 5 days. You need $20 in cash for a small purchase where cards are not accepted. The next day, you might have to pay a late fee on a utility bill because your paycheck arrived a day after it was due. That's another $10 or $15 gone. Now, let's talk about something many of us take for granted. Having a bank account. It's our portal for direct deposits, online bill payments, and saving for the future. It's a tool we use without a second thought. But for millions of people, traditional banking is out of reach. They are what we call the unbanked. This can be for many reasons: steep minimum balance requirements, unpredictable overdraft fees, a lack of trust in financial institutions, or simply not having the required forms of identification. There's another, even larger group, the underbanked. These individuals might have a basic checking or savings account, but they still find themselves turning to alternative, and often more expensive, financial services to make ends meet. Think of it as having one foot in the system and one foot out. To understand the real-world impact, let me tell you about a man named David. David works in construction, a physically demanding job with long hours. He gets paid every Friday with a paper check. Because he doesn't have a bank account, direct deposit isn't an option. So, after a long week, his first stop is a check cashing store. For David, this is a necessity. He needs cash in hand immediately to pay for groceries, gas, and rent. These stores provide an immediate service, but it comes at a price. They charge a fee for this convenience, usually a percentage of the check's value. Some might turn to prepaid cards, which can be a useful tool, but they often come with their own web of fees for loading money, checking a balance, or even for inactivity. For David, the check cashing store feels more straightforward. For his $600 weekly paycheck, the store takes a 3% fee. That's $18, gone before he can even begin to spend his hard-earned money. It might not sound like a lot, but it's a weekly tax on his labor. Over the course of a year, those $8 fees add up to nearly $1,000. That's $1,000 that could have gone toward a car repair, a security deposit on a new apartment, or an emergency fund. Instead, It's the price he pays just to access his own wages. This is the poverty premium in action. Consider a nurse's aide who finishes her shift at 11 p.m. The large, affordable grocery stores are all closed. The only place open near her bus stop is a 24-hour convenience store. A gallon of milk there might cost $1 more than at the supermarket. A box of cereal could be $2 more. Have you ever noticed that buying in bulk is almost always cheaper per item? However, to take advantage of these savings, you need two things: enough money to pay the higher upfront cost and enough space to store the larger items. If you only have $20 for household supplies until your next paycheck, you cannot afford to spend it all on a giant container of soap, even if it is a better deal. You have to buy the small bottle that costs more per ounce because that is what your budget allows right now. Having good credit is like having a key. It unlocks better opportunities and lower costs. But to get good credit, you first need to have credit. You need to show a history of borrowing money and paying it back on time. Without a credit history, it is nearly impossible to get the affordable loans that would help you build one. You are locked out of the system before you even get a chance to prove you are responsible. Let's follow a woman named Sarah. Her son gets sick. She needs to pay for a doctor's visit. She needs to pay for medicine, totaling $300. She doesn't get paid for another 10 days, so she goes to a payday lender. They give her the $300. They charge a fee of $45. The problem is, Sarah's paycheck is smaller than she expected after taxes and deductions. After paying back the $345, she is short on money for her rent. She is short on money for groceries. So, what does she do? She takes out another payday loan to cover her expenses. To truly understand how expensive these loans are, we need to talk about something called APR. APR stands for annual percentage rate. It is the total cost of borrowing money over a full year, including fees and interest. A $45 fee for a 2-week loan is equivalent to an APR of nearly 400%. That is not a typo. 400%. It is 20 times more expensive than a high-interest credit card. Once you are caught in a high-interest debt trap, it can feel like you are in quicksand. Every move you make to get out only seems to pull you in deeper. This is the downward spiral of debt. Let's go back to Sarah. She is stuck rolling over her payday loan, and the fees are eating up her income. Because she is short on cash, she is late paying her car loan 1 month. This triggers a late fee of $30. It also gets reported to the credit bureaus, which causes her already low credit score to drop even further. A credit score is a 3-digit number that has an enormous amount of power over your financial life. 2 people could walk into the same dealership to buy the exact same $10,000 car. The person with good credit might get a loan with a 5% APR. The person with bad credit might only qualify for a loan with a 20% APR. Over the life of the loan, the person with bad credit will pay over $4,500 more in interest for the identical car. A stable home is the foundation of a stable life, but for millions, that foundation is shaky and expensive. Housing insecurity is a major hidden cost of poverty. The upfront costs of moving are another huge barrier. You typically need to pay the first month's rent and a security deposit, often another month's rent. A $1,000 apartment can require $2,000 cash immediately. Access to healthy, affordable food is a basic human need. Yet for many people living in low-income areas, it is a daily struggle. These neighborhoods are often food deserts, a term for areas where residents have limited access to supermarkets and large grocery stores. Fresh fruits, vegetables, lean meats are often non-existent or of poor quality and sold at a much higher price than in a suburban supermarket. A frozen pizza, a box of macaroni and cheese, however, is cheap and readily available. Getting from point A to point B is essential for holding a job, accessing services, participating in society, but for those in poverty, transportation is a major hurdle and a significant expense. Owning a car is expensive. Initial purchase price, insurance, gas, maintenance, repairs. A single unexpected repair can be financially devastating, like a failed transmission. It can mean choosing between fixing your car to get to work or paying your rent. Without a car, public transportation is the next option. But in many places, transit is underfunded, unreliable, inconvenient. A 20-minute car trip can become 90 minutes by bus with multiple transfers and long waits. For people with financial stability and good health insurance, getting sick is a temporary disruption. For people living in poverty, it can be a catastrophe. Without insurance, people often delay seeking care. A nagging cough, a persistent pain, because a visit to the doctor could mean a bill for hundreds of dollars that they cannot pay. But often, it doesn't. A minor treatable issue can escalate, requiring emergency care. A trip to the emergency room can generate a bill for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. This medical debt is a leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. It can destroy a family's savings and ruin their credit for years, all because someone got sick. We've journeyed through the intricate landscape of poverty, and what we've uncovered is a reality far more complex than a simple absence of money. We've seen how a trip to the grocery store can cost more, how accessing your own paycheck can come with a fee, and how a medical emergency can trigger a financial avalanche. This is the poverty premium in action. It is a complex and deeply embedded system of hidden fees, inflated prices, and invisible barriers that function like a regressive tax on those with the fewest resources. From the small daily costs of cashing a check without a bank account to the life-altering burden of medical debt that can haunt a family for generations, being poor in America comes with a steep and relentless financial penalty. It's a surcharge for survival. This poverty premium doesn't just drain current income. It actively sabotages the future. It makes it exponentially harder for people to build emergency savings, to invest in education or a small business, and to climb out of their circumstances. It transforms the ladder of economic mobility into a treadmill, where families have to run faster and faster just to stay in the same place. But acknowledging the scale and structure of this problem is not a cause for despair. It is the essential first step toward dismantling it. There is hope, grounded in tangible action and clear, achievable paths forward. The complexity of the problem demands a comprehensive response, but it is not an unsolvable riddle. The solutions must be layered and multifaceted, involving decisive policy changes at the federal, state, and local levels, as well as fundamental shifts in how our communities and businesses operate. It requires a two-pronged approach: protecting consumers from predatory practices, while proactively building systems that foster financial inclusion and stability. On the policy front, we can create and enforce regulations that curb predatory lending. This means establishing reasonable caps on interest rates for payday loans, car title loans, and other forms of high-cost credit, preventing lenders from trapping borrowers in cycles of debt with triple-digit APRs. We can also champion financial inclusion by investing in and expanding access to basic, low-cost banking services for everyone. This could take the form of postal banking, which would leverage the existing infrastructure of the U.S. Postal Service to offer affordable accounts and small loans. It also means supporting community development financial institutions and credit unions that are specifically chartered to serve low-income communities, ensuring no one has to pay a private company just to access their own hard-earned money. Beyond finance, we must address the geographic penalties of poverty. We can support and fund initiatives that bring affordable, quality housing to every neighborhood, using tools like inclusionary zoning and housing trust funds to ensure that a person's zip code doesn't determine their destiny. And we must invest in robust, reliable public transit, creating networks that connect residential areas with job centers, healthcare facilities, and grocery stores, reducing the immense time and money tax that transportation places on low-wage workers. These are not radical or untested ideas. They are practical, evidence-based steps toward a fairer, more efficient economic system. They are investments in our collective prosperity. This is a call to action for all of us, because this system touches everyone. As individuals and consumers, we can make conscious choices. We can support businesses that pay a living wage and provide stable hours. We can bank with local credit unions that reinvest in our neighborhoods. We can show up to city council meetings and advocate for fair housing policies and better transit options in our own communities. Our voices and our dollars have power. Policymakers, in turn, have a profound responsibility to lead. They must move beyond rhetoric and actively examine, reform, and dismantle the systems that penalize poverty. This means auditing government-imposed fees, simplifying access to social safety net programs, and holding corporations accountable for exploitative practices. It requires courage and a commitment to governing for all constituents, not just the most powerful. And finally, as a society, we must undergo a fundamental shift in our perspective. We must reject the tired and inaccurate narrative that poverty is a personal or moral failing. We must recognize it for what it is, a circumstance, often created and perpetuated by a web of systemic challenges, policy choices, and historical injustices. Empathy is the starting point, but it must be followed by a demand for justice. By working together, as neighbors, as advocates, as voters, and as leaders, we can begin to cut the threads of this web, one by one. We can reduce and ultimately eliminate the hidden price of being poor. The goal is not simply to help people survive poverty, but to create an economy where it is no longer a trap. We can and must build a country where everyone, regardless of their income or the neighborhood they were born into, has a genuine and equitable opportunity to build a secure life and to thrive.